Hello everybody, hope you're doing fantastically well. It's Connor here. We are back with another One Leeds video. We are back with some more content, and before we start the video fully, make sure you're liking the video, get your comments in the section below, and of course, make sure you are subscribed. If you want some bonus content, the Patreon link will always be in the description below. We recorded the debrief last night and then the debrief extra. We also have Generation Leeds coming your way this week. So yeah, here we go, guys. I wanted to speak today about the huge opportunity that Leeds United have in their Premier League campaign and in their race to survive, really, in this 22-23 season, which seems absolutely mental already. Obviously, Leeds United before the Liverpool game, not winning since August, and it's been a real turbulent time for the Leeds United fan base, for the Leeds United team, and yeah, presumably everyone in the background as well. But right now, Leeds United have such a massive, monumental, chance to be able to thrive and to be able to progress. And this is what we were saying after the Chelsea game earlier on. We were saying this after the Arsenal game in terms of building up and being able to build on that performance. And Leeds have really struggled to do that. Obviously, you look at the losses this season, you look at the draws this season. Aston Villa were below Leeds, Everton were below Leeds, Leicester were below Leeds. All of these sides which we've struggled to really capitalise against have all been below Leeds at the start of play. Now, Bournemouth are not going to be below Leeds at the start of play, but Bournemouth are a newly promoted side. Bournemouth are a team that when you looked at the fixtures at the start of the season, you looked at Fulham, you did look at Nottingham Forest, and you did look at Bournemouth and thought those have to be wins for Leeds United. They have to be wins, and this is a must-win for me. Liverpool doesn't change anything. Liverpool has just provided us with that platform, provided us with that self-assurance and confidence that we can go into this game and beat Bournemouth. And I think because of the mentality of this side, the mentality which I think has almost been the same since the Championship days, really, because it does have the nucleus of some of those players from the Championship days, can be quite weak at points and does need boosting naturally like everybody else's does, but I'm not 100% sure that some of the core players that have been here for a long time really are able to switch that mindset around at some points, and that's why it's absolutely imperative that players like Tyler Adams and Brendan Aronson and Mark Rocker and Rasmus Christensen, etc., have come in to be able to elevate those players and to be able to give them the fresh perspective that, look, we can turn this around. I think you saw that against Liverpool when those new players were some of the best players on the pitch. Take out Elan Meslier, of course, but Rasmus, fantastic. Tyler Adams, imperative, and Brendan Aronson, just exceptional. So right now it is a huge chance for Jesse to really secure some points before the World Cup campaign. Then you have that World Cup campaign. It looks like they're going to be cancelling their trip to America, which I think is a really important thing that we all need to recognise. I think going away to America to chill out and to play a few games just isn't the right mindset when you have a month off. I think a month off, you've got to be at least in training. You've got to be at least preparing. From my perspective anyway, as a footballer, I'd be expecting that. And I think other teams are going to be doing that anyway. I don't think they're going to be swanning off for tours in the middle of seasons, really. I think it is imperative that they stay, the nucleus stays. Even players going away to the World Cup, I think Leeds have about 4 or 5. But I think the remaining part of Leeds, this cohesion needs to build, the synergy needs to build, the partnerships need to build, and Leeds need to build, as a club, really, because I think it's been a real tough beginning of the Premier League campaign. Now, Jesse Marsh, is he still under pressure? Yes, he is. Is he the right man for the job? I'm not convinced yet. And the reason I say that is because I love what I've seen in terms of that Liverpool game, but we did mention on the preview that if we were to win, this isn't Jesse out of the woods yet, because we didn't expect to win, but against Arsenal, against Chelsea, we were excellent. Should have beaten Arsenal by 4 or 5. I genuinely believe that. Chelsea, we should have scored 4 or 5 against those guys as well. I thought we were really good. So Liverpool was always going to be a tough ask. However, Leeds have to build against the smaller teams. Leeds have to be able to beat the smaller teams in and around us, because that's going to build confidence as well. And that's a succession plan. So is he still under pressure? He is. But if he starts to beat the teams in and around us, if he's able to get 4 points out of his next 6, available, then that's a really good platform going into the World Cup. And then you're looking at a completely different perspective. You're looking at Leeds having a real period of time that they can work together. And then you have the January window, which we're going to get onto in a little bit. But that has to be a building process, a real building process for the club. we don't just look at summer transfer windows. You have to look at January as well. You get 2 windows per season. The January window, it might not be the best to be able to transfer in and transfer out in, but it is imperative because it is still a window where you can build. It's going to be a more expensive window. We spoke about this at the start when Leeds were negligent in certain areas. It was always going to be more expensive in January. We heard the stuff that Leeds were going to go back in for Cody Gakpo in January. I think that's a smokescreen. That'll never happen. It'll never happen now anyway, as we said in the summer window. But Leeds are going to have to put their hands in the pockets if they want to develop in that January window, because we still need reinforcements. You know, this Liverpool result was amazing, but I think a lot of Leeds fans, and even Jesse in his post-match, you could tell that Leeds fans are still turning around and saying, okay, fine, okay, but let's build. We've got Bournemouth. We cannot be getting beaten to Bournemouth, losing to Bournemouth, I should say, or even drawing. And I think that's key to note. So he'll know that. And as I said, I think you saw with Jesse, he wasn't going up to the crowd afterwards and giving it the fist bumps and all this sort of stuff. In his press conference afterwards, for me, he was still agitated, still really agitated, and he wasn't really focused on the Liverpool game. It was focus Bournemouth. Focus on the game ahead, focus on the huge game ahead at home, because you couldn't ask for a better fixture. Bournemouth have won, 1 in 7? They've lost 3 out of the last 4, I believe it is. Won 1 game away from home all season. I always said Leeds were the trend bookers last season, because it seemed teams would come to Ellen Road and we would give them that opportunity. And we've still seen that this season. We've still seen us being the trend bookers. And you've seen that with teams below us who've been able to really get an advantage on this Leeds side when we should have been hammering that nail in the coffin and beating them. But we haven't. But this needs to be a platform. It needs to be a time where Leeds are now able to elevate their performances. Leeds are able to elevate results. And this is what I mean. I don't just want a result, everyone. I know people are going to be turning around and saying, well, Connor, you can't be greedy here. We need points. And I would agree, but I want to see a performance as well. I want to see a dominating performance. I want to see us really taking control, penetrating the action against this Bournemouth side, who for me are going to sink. They are going to sink for me this season, and you're seeing that recently. So that is something we've got to take into consideration. Now, as I said, the next 2 games are huge. Now, for me, when we had Leicester then Fulham, Jesse would have been targeting that as 6 points or 4 points at least. We didn't get any points. So these next 2 games, I think you've got to be targeting 4 points. Now, that's ambition. If we can go to Liverpool and win, we can go to Spurs and at least get something. And Spurs are not playing well at the minute. And Bournemouth, we should be getting something from. Now, Grace Robertson, who's a fantastic account on Twitter, I urge you all to go and follow her. She's absolutely exceptional at what she does. Very good at analysis. And I brought this point up on the debrief last night. Grace said that when Leeds have had more than 40% possession of the ball, Leeds have lost every single game. But when we've had 40% or less, Leeds have won 100% of the games. Now, take that into consideration. Now, for me, that is worrying. And I think we would all recognise that as worrying, because it essentially means that there is a game plan to play against Leeds. You go Big Sam football, you go hoofball, you go Stoke in 2008 against Leeds United, you know, with your Rory Delaps and your Mohamed Sidibe and your Ricardo Fullers. You go hoofball and you try hit the big man, you bypass that press, as we've spoken about 1,000,001 times. Success will happen against Leeds United. So it's all about mitigating against that. It's all about being pragmatic in games. It's, can we do something different? It's, can we change our game state, gameplay, going into the game with a little bit of a different ethos? Can we play a little bit more wide? Now, in the last 2 games for me, Leeds have played with a little bit more width. Can we exploit that? Can we actually try and keep hold of the ball? And if we do keep hold of the ball, and if we have more than 40% possession, can we kill the opposition team? Because when you look at Sinisterra, when you look at maybe players like Crescencio Somerville proving me wrong, players like Jack Harrison, you know, players like Brendan Aronson, they should have that creative, innovative attribute to be able to hurt teams like Bournemouth. It shouldn't, and this has always been the thing with Leeds. It was a thing with Leeds under Marcelo Bielsa, where when teams really soaked up Leeds and they sat back in a low block, Leeds really struggled to break them down. We've always seen that. You know, Wigan is the classic example in the Championship days where they went down to 10 men and they were bottom of the league. They'd never won away from home all season. They beat Leeds 2-1 in that promotion campaign. So Leeds have always struggled with that. But the Bielsa hallmark was we always seem to beat teams in and around us. Jesse needs to have that in his repertoire. He needs to have that in his locker, because the teams in and around us are the teams we have to be beating to stay in this division, because the objective can't just be to beat the top teams. The expectation can't be to beat the top teams, because they will adapt, they will get better, they will probably beat Leeds in 90% of games because of their quality going up front. So yeah, overall, everyone, that pragmatism needs to develop, and it's been good seeing Leeds go a little bit more wide. I think that's great, but I think we need to exploit that a little bit more, and I think you're going to hopefully see that going forward. Now, more news today. We've heard on the Leeds United sphere that apparently in the summer, Crysencio Somerville was very close to a move to Nottingham Forest. Now, Somerville's an interesting one, because I've been on this channel and I've been saying I'm not sure he's good enough. And the jury is still out. I know a lot of Leeds fans can be extremely reactive, and if he scores, one goal in a game, that means that he's going to be Leeds'. He's pretty much the equivalent to Rafinha. I'm just giving a little bit more time to sit back and observe with Crysencio Somerville. I don't think he was that amazing against Fulham or Liverpool, but he got his goal. If we can start seeing 50, 60, 70-minute performances from Crysencio Somerville and adding goals to his game like he has been doing, then I'm going to turn around and go, wow, yeah, okay, fantastic. This is great to see. But I think we have seen with some of the younger players that have come through in this Leeds United side, they might not be centre-forwards, they might not be wingers, whatever it may be, where goals are imperative. But I think there's been a lot of inconsistencies when they've come into this side, and that's what happens when you're young. You naturally, you're a young lad, you come into this side, but if you start in games for Leeds United in this period right now where Leeds are really struggling to gain momentum, to be successful in the final third, you need to be performing as well. You need to be performing. There isn't an expectation on Crysencio Somerville to come in and just make up the numbers. Crysencio has to be performing week in, week out, and I think you've seen that in the past couple of games. He's added goals to his performances, which is great, and long may that continue. But it's interesting to hear that apparently in the summer, Nottingham Forest, he was one of the top priorities, and that's on the rumour mill today. Now, something I wanted to speak about as well. We're talking about succession plans. We're talking about Leeds going forward, building on this Liverpool thing, and this Liverpool thing could be a huge thing when it comes to really looking at a point in Leeds this season, at the end of the season, saying this is where it all started. Because as I say, going into the World Cup campaign, now you've got apparently Leeds turning around today and saying that we're going to be listening to offers for Adam Forshaw. At last, this guy, great guy, nice guy, been at Leeds for far too long, but 5 years now, seems like a really nice chat, but this needs to be something we move on, okay? Luke Kearn is in the last year of his contract is up also in 2023, we need to be looking at that. Stuart Dallas, Liam Cooper, 2024. I understand they're probably very different situations in terms of getting rid of the old guards. Stuart Dallas was a key part of this Leeds side, but is he ever going to get to that point in his career where he was exceptional for Leeds United? And I'm not going to throw him under the bus, of course I'm not, but I understand that Liam Cooper and Stuart Dallas are at a little bit of a different point. Mattis Click, 2024. Rodrigo, 2024. Jack Harrison, 2024. Now, the reason I mention this, everyone, is because we played Liverpool at the weekend, and Liverpool are going through a process right now of really struggling for identity. This Jurgen Klopp has struggled to regenerate, renovate the squad and be able to build something new. And he's always struggled with that. He struggled with that at Mainz. He had a really good team for the standard where Mainz were at. Dortmund, it went all wrong for him when he then had to start regenerating that process of bringing in new players and bringing a new side together with quality. Now, I've said this for a couple of years now. I think Leeds have really struggled to do that, and I think that's why you've seen us battling relegation, including this season, for the past sort of 18 to 24 months. So this is where this regeneration process starts for me, with Adam Forshaw, with Matthias Klick, with Liam Cooper. I know it sounds horrible to you guys, but in the future it's going to have to be someone like Liam Cooper, with Stuart Dallas, potentially with Rodrigo. When you can still get value for these players, do you do that, or do you wait for the contracts to expire? That's a different question. That's a question for the board. But this is where this regeneration process needs to start, and it starts in January. Liam Cooper is a very different situation because he's starting for Leeds week in, week out. He's the captain, but there has to be at some point a succession plan for Liam Cooper with the age that he's at and the quality which needs to be improved from centre back for me, for centre back. And you're naturally going to get Leeds, hopefully, if they're using their brains, moving Pascal into centre back and bringing in a new left back. Hopefully that is something that Leeds have identified and thought, why didn't we do that? And it has to be, and I'm sure it is. And that means a very different role for someone like Liam Cooper, and then Leeds really need to start analysing that. But yeah, the old guard who are at Leeds now in the next 2 years are going to be coming to the end of their cycle at Leeds United. So I can't see Leeds offering, Cooper, Dallas, Ayling, Forshaw, Click, new contracts. And thank you for the service. Thank you for the service. But when it gets to 2024, I do not want to be seeing Stuart Dallas, Liam Cooper, even Mattis Click, Luke Ayling, Adam Forshaw, all of them in the next 2 years. I don't want to see them starting for Leeds. It has to be that next process. It has to be that elevation. It has to be Premier League players, everyone. Premier League depth, Premier League starting 11. And it's going to be interesting because I think this starts this January with people like Adam Forshaw. It's then going to go into the summer with people like Luke Ayling. And then it's all about Leeds bringing in players. So we avoid a Liverpool. We avoid doing a Leeds, which I think we've struggled to do when only bringing in 5-6 players to improve that starting 11 in the summer. It needed to be more. It hasn't been more, but that's where this process starts with January. And it's about players going out as well. It's not just about players coming in and really starting to reinvent this Leeds United side. So yeah, I mean, and on the mill today as well, just looking at a couple of rumours as well. Weston McKennie is going to be available in January as well. Obviously, the Juventus midfielder. Apparently, he wants to move to the Premier League, so that's definitely one to keep an eye out on. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this discussion video. It's great when Leeds United win. We can talk about all these things. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What do you think about the talking points? There's been a fair few today. Guys, have a lovely evening. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you in a bit. Cheers.